The mining colony of Kestrel Outpost floated quietly at the edge of known space. It was not a beautiful place. The station was old, patched together with metal plates from many worlds, and always humming with tired machines. Most beings who lived there did not stay by choice. They stayed because they had nowhere else to go. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, not because they were weak, but because most alien governments found humans difficult to understand. Humans asked too many questions. They fixed things that were supposed to stay broken. And they never followed instructions the way others did. That was why Ilior Kane lived on Kestrel Outpost. Ilior was a human mechanic. He was not famous. He did not wear a uniform or carry rank symbols. His clothes were always stained with oil, dust, or burn marks. His workshop was small, loud, and messy. But if something was broken beyond hope, people brought it to him. Ilior did not believe in beyond repair. One quiet cycle, everything changed. The alarms began without warning. A deep vibration passed through the station, strong enough to shake tools from shelves. Emergency lights flashed blue across the metal walls. Workers stopped what they were doing and looked at each other in fear. Then came the impact. Something massive struck the outer platform. Ilior felt the shock through the floor of his workshop. He steadied himself against a workbench and frowned. That wasn't a cargo ship, he muttered. Moments later, the station-wide message echoed through the speakers. All personnel, remain calm. A large object has made contact with Platform 7. Security teams are responding. Ilior wiped his hands on a cloth and grabbed his tool belt. When alarms sounded on Kestrel Outpost, it usually meant trouble, and trouble usually meant broken machines. Platform 7 was already crowded when Ilior arrived. Alien workers of many species stood at a safe distance, whispering nervously. Security drones hovered in the air, their sensors glowing. In the center of the platform lay something enormous. It was the Guardian. Ilior stopped walking. Everyone knew the stories. The Guardian was not a ship and not fully a machine. It was an ancient alien protector, built long before the colony existed. The original alien species, long gone now, had created it to defend the station from threats. For centuries, it had stood silent, towering above the platform like a statue of metal and living crystal. Until now. The Guardian lay on its side, cracked and dark. Parts of its armor were shattered. Strange energy veins that once glowed softly were now flickering or dead. It fell, someone whispered. That's impossible, another said. Guardians did not fall. The alien overseer of the colony, Director Shallan, arrived with a group of advisors. Shallan's tall frame stiffened as they stared at the broken protector. This should not happen, Shallan said slowly. The Guardian is self-sustaining. A technician stepped forward nervously. Director, the energy core is unstable. Our tools cannot interface with its systems. Shallan's eyes moved across the crowd. Is there anyone here who can attempt repairs? The crowd shifted backward. No one wanted to touch the Guardian. Ilior sighed quietly. He raised his hand. I can take a look. The platform fell silent. Several aliens turned toward him in disbelief. A human, someone murmured. Shallan studied Ilior carefully. You understand this is alien technology older than most civilizations. Ilior nodded. Machines are machines. They follow rules, even strange ones. Shallan hesitated. There were no better options. Very well, the director said. But proceed with caution. Ilior approached the Guardian. Up close, it was even more impressive. The surface of its body was a mix of metal and something organic, smooth in some places and rough in others. Symbols were carved deep into its armor, symbols that told stories of wars long forgotten. A long crack ran across its chest. That's your problem, Ilior said softly. He climbed onto the Guardian's side, using exposed plating as handholds. His scanner beeped wildly, unable to translate most readings. Figures, he muttered. Instead of relying on the scanner, Ilior did what humans always did best. He observed. The Guardian's damaged area showed signs of overload. Energy had tried to escape and torn through internal channels. Elior followed the pattern with his eyes. Too much power, nowhere to go, he said. Same mistake every advanced species makes. He opened a panel carefully. The internal structure was complex but not random. Power flowed in loops. Control systems were layered for safety, but something had disrupted the balance. Elior frowned. You were never meant to be alone this long. He worked slowly, using basic tools and adapting them on the spot. Where alien connectors did not fit, he built simple bridges. Where energy lines were broken, he rerouted them. Hours passed. The crowd watched in silence. More than once the Guardian twitched. Its massive fingers moved slightly. Its head shifted a fraction. Security teams tensed. Elior didn't stop. Easy, he whispered. I'm just helping. Finally, he stepped back. Okay, he said aloud. That should stabilize you. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Guardian's core flared with light. A deep, resonant sound echoed across the platform. Not a roar, but something closer to a breath taken after a long sleep. The Guardian's eyes lit up. The crowd gasped. The massive being slowly pushed itself upright, metal plates sliding into place. Energy flowed smoothly through its body again. The Guardian stood. Shallan took a cautious step forward. Guardian Unit, the director called. Identify status. The Guardian did not respond. Instead, it turned its head. Its glowing eyes scanned the platform, moving over aliens, machines, and structures. Sensors hummed softly. Elior wiped sweat from his brow and climbed down. Hey, he said quietly. You're welcome. The Guardian's gaze stopped, locked on Elior. A low tone vibrated through the air, not threatening, curious. The Guardian took one step forward. Security drones raised their weapons. Stand back, someone shouted. Elior raised his hands calmly. It's fine, just let it. The Guardian stopped directly in front of him. It lowered its massive head until its glowing eyes were level with the human mechanic. The entire platform held its breath. Then something strange happened. The Guardian placed one massive hand flat against the metal floor and bowed. Shock spread through the crowd like fire. Shallan's eyes widened. That is a recognition gesture. The Guardian straightened and projected a soft beam of light into the air. Symbols appeared, ancient, complex, and powerful. The station's translators struggled, then finally produced a simple message. Bond acknowledged. Elior blinked. Bond. The Guardian turned slightly, positioning itself beside him, not over him, not in front of him, but next to him, protectively. Whispers exploded across the platform. It chose the human. That should not be possible. Humans were never in the selection protocols. Shallan stared at Elior with a mix of disbelief and concern. The Guardian chooses only one, the director said slowly. A guide, a partner. Elior swallowed. I didn't sign up for that. The Guardian's eyes dimmed slightly, then brightened again. It was listening. And for the first time in centuries, the ancient protector had chosen someone new. A human. Far beyond the colony, unseen sensors activated. Old enemies noticed the change. And the galaxy took its first quiet step toward realizing a simple truth. Humans were never meant to be ignored. Elior Kane could hardly sleep that night. Even in his small, cluttered quarters, the image of the Guardian stood vividly in his mind. The towering alien machine, alive and powerful, had chosen him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw its glowing eyes studying him, its enormous hand bowing in recognition. He never expected anything like this. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy. Aliens thought them fragile, disorganized, or unpredictable. Yet here he was, bonded to a being that could crush the station under its feet if it wished. And somehow it did not wish harm. The next morning, Elior returned to Platform 7. He felt nervous. Many aliens had stayed away from the platform since the Guardian awakened. Rumors spread quickly, stories of humans being dangerous, or lucky, or touched by something unknown. Some whispered fearfully that humans were evolving faster than the galaxy understood. Shallan, the colony director, met Elior at the platform entrance. The alien's long, armored arms were folded across his chest. His eyes, sharp and calculating, regarded Elior like a puzzle that refused to be solved. "You understand the situation, human?" Shallan asked. Elior nodded. "Yes, the Guardian is bonded with me. I didn't make it choose, but it did." Shallan sighed, a sound like wind passing through stone. "This is unprecedented. No human has ever been selected by a Guardian, ever. The protocols, ancient and hidden, never included your species." "I didn't read any protocols," Elior said with a small grin. "I just fixed it." Shallan's lips twitched, almost like a smile. "Almost. Yes, but now the Guardian is active and bonded, which means you are responsible for it. You must understand the risks." "I understand," Elior said, though he only partially did. Responsibility, he knew, could be heavy, but he was not afraid, not yet. The Guardian stirred behind them. Its massive shoulders shifted, and a low hum of energy filled the air. It tilted its head toward Elior, then slowly extended one of its huge arms to point toward the colony entrance. It wanted him to follow. Elior looked at Shallan. "It's showing me something." Shallan hesitated. "Very well, but take caution. The Guardian is powerful." The two walked toward the station's main corridor. The Guardian followed silently, each step making the platform tremble slightly. Workers watched from safe distances, whispering among themselves. Elior studied the Guardian as they moved. It was not just a machine, not merely a protector. Its design was intricate, beautiful in ways he could not explain. Energy flowed through visible channels like rivers of light. Its body was a mixture of metal and living material, alive in some sense but controlled by rules Elior could barely imagine. "Why me?" he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. The Guardian's head tilted, as if acknowledging the question, though it gave no answer. They reached a section of the station rarely used. Ancient hallways connected old storage areas with long-abandoned labs. Elior noticed faint markings on the walls, symbols similar to those on the Guardian. They pulsed faintly when the Guardian passed, almost like a response. It stopped in front of a large door, one Elior had never seen open before. The Guardian projected a holographic key into the air, pressing it against the door. It clicked and slowly swung open. Inside was a room full of alien technology. Machines hummed with latent energy, strange devices lined the walls, and in the center rested an object covered with a glowing tarp. Elior stepped forward cautiously. "What is all this?" The Guardian extended its hand, lightly pushing the tarp aside. Beneath it was a device unlike anything Elior had ever seen. It was compact, elegant, and radiated power. Symbols across it matched the Guardian's markings. Shallan entered the room, eyes wide. "That is a selection device," he said slowly. "It is used to determine the Guardian's guide. The chosen one must align with the Guardian's principles. Only then can it bond. Usually, only the alien creators were compatible. He paused, staring at Elior. "You are not supposed to be able to interact with it." Elior felt a mixture of pride and unease. "So it's my fault I fixed it?" he asked. "Or my luck?" "Neither," Shallan said. "Humans are unpredictable, adaptable, creative. The Guardian must have sensed your potential. It picked you for reasons we cannot fully understand." Elior glanced at the Guardian. Its glowing eyes focused on him. Somehow he knew it agreed. For days that followed, Elior learned to work with the Guardian. He discovered its controls were partly mechanical, partly psychic, responding to gestures, thoughts, and intentions. Aliens had studied the Guardian for decades and understood only fragments. Elior had no training. He relied on instincts and curiosity, human traits the Guardian seemed to favor. The Guardian responded to him. It lifted objects heavier than a small building. It scanned areas in seconds that would take entire teams of aliens days to survey. It protected the colony silently, often before threats became visible. One evening, the colony experienced the first real test. A cargo vessel from a neighboring system crashed near the docking bay. Its hull ruptured, sending energy pulses that could have destroyed nearby structures. Alarms blared and panic spread among the workers. Ilior and the Guardian arrived first. With a few precise gestures, the Guardian stabilized the vessel. Energy barriers shimmered into place. The alien crew inside the cargo ship stared in disbelief as the Guardian carefully guided the ship into a safe position, then slowly dissipated the barriers. The colony erupted in whispers. Humans who were usually underestimated had just saved hundreds of lives. Shallan approached Ilior afterward. "Your presence, your actions, they have changed how we see humans," he admitted. "The Guardian's choice may be the first signal of something greater," Ilior shrugged. "I just fixed what was broken, that's all." But he knew it was more than that. The Guardian did not just repair systems or respond to danger. It chose him. It trusted him. And in a galaxy where trust was rare, that meant everything. However, not all eyes watching the colony were friendly. Far beyond Kestrel Outpost, a group of alien observers monitored the situation. They were mercenaries, scavengers, and bounty hunters who feared anything powerful. When the Guardian awoke and chose a human, it sent ripples through galactic networks. One voice spoke quietly among them. "Humans, they are dangerous. We cannot ignore this." Ilior had no idea that his actions were now being noticed by enemies who had once dismissed humanity entirely. Back at the station, the Guardian's bond with him deepened. It followed him silently, learned his habits, and anticipated his intentions. Where Ilior went, the Guardian went. Workers began to rely on their combined presence for safety. Humans and aliens alike observed that Ilior, once a simple mechanic, had become a symbol of hope and proof that humans could rise to any challenge. Days turned into weeks. Ilior's connection with the Guardian grew stronger. He discovered that simple gestures could trigger complex actions. A slight nod would send the Guardian to patrol the station. A flick of his wrist could redirect power flows. He learned to trust it completely. Yet Ilior remained humble. "I'm just a mechanic," he told a small group of curious aliens one day. "I didn't choose this. The Guardian did. It trusts me, that's all." But inside, Ilior felt something stirring. Pride, yes, but also a sense of responsibility. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was the bond that connected humanity with one of the galaxy's most powerful creations. And somewhere far away, enemies were preparing. They had underestimated humans once. They would not make the same mistake again. The colony, safe for now, was unaware that the awakening of the Guardian had marked a turning point, not just for Kestrel Outpost, but for the entire galaxy. Ilior, standing next to the Guardian, could feel the weight of what had begun. It was more than repair, more than protection. It was a promise. A promise that humans, clever and unpredictable, could change the fate of worlds. And the Guardian, massive and ancient, had chosen him to prove it. The sun over Kestrel Outpost had barely risen when the alarm sounded. The loud, urgent ringing echoed across the station, bouncing off the metal walls, shaking even the massive platform where the Guardian stood silently beside Ilior Kane. Ilior's heart tightened. The day he had feared was coming. He knew it without checking the sensors. Something had come for them. "Report," Director Shallan shouted, striding toward Ilior. His long limbs moved quickly for someone usually so calm. "Sensors indicate multiple ships approaching from the outer rim. Unknown designation. High velocity. They're armed." Ilior's eyes narrowed. "Zalari Marauders, I've heard stories. They target anything strong enough to fight back. And they hate humans." Shallan's jaw tightened. "Then we have little time. Prepare the station defenses." The platform shook as the Guardian stepped forward, towering above everyone else. Its glowing eyes scanned the skies. Workers and drones scattered, unsure where to hide or what to do, but Ilior stayed calm. He knew the Guardian's potential. He also knew its loyalty. "Guardian," Ilior said, raising his hand slightly. "We protect the colony. Move with me." The massive being tilted its head, acknowledging the command. With quiet steps that still made the platform tremble, it positioned itself between Ilior and the approaching threat. The Zalari ships appeared as streaks in the distance, fast and merciless. Their hulls were dark and jagged, clearly designed for attack. Waves of smaller drones followed, buzzing like angry hornets. "Status?" Ilior asked, scanning the readouts on his portable tablet. "Outnumbered, poorly equipped, but you have an unusual asset," Shallan said, nodding toward the Guardian. Ilior took a deep breath. Humans did not always have the strongest ships or weapons. But humans had something aliens often underestimated: creativity, intuition, and adaptability. He turned to the Guardian. "We'll need to be clever, not just strong." The Guardian responded with a low hum. Its chest panels glowed as energy built up, ready to act on Ilior's commands. The first wave of Zalari drones struck. They fired beams of concentrated energy, shredding metal where they hit. Workers screamed and ran for cover. "Guardian!" Ilior shouted, pointing at the drones. In a blur of motion, the Guardian raised its massive arms. Energy shields formed in front of it, absorbing the blasts. Then it swung one arm, creating a shockwave that sent the drones tumbling through space like leaves in the wind. The Marauders paused, surprised by the unexpected power. Aliens in the colony gasped. This was beyond any weapon they had. Ilior grinned, feeling the familiar spark of human ingenuity. He scanned the weapon systems of the Marauders. "We can't fight them head-on, too many. But we can outsmart them." He noticed structural weaknesses in the platform and nearby structures. Using the Guardian's energy, he could redirect beams and create traps. The Guardian followed his lead, moving exactly as Ilior imagined. "Guardian, lift the cargo containers near the east wing," he instructed. With ease, the Guardian's massive arms lifted heavy containers and arranged them strategically. Ilior activated nearby turrets remotely, then coordinated a precise firing sequence. The Marauders' smaller drones crashed into the barriers. Larger ships hesitated, unsure of the defenses. The colony watched, amazed. A human was directing the Guardian, an ancient alien protector, and together they were defeating what no other species could. But the Zalari were smart. They quickly adapted, focusing their attacks on the Guardian itself. Energy beams struck it repeatedly. Sparks flew, but the Guardian held firm. Ilior realized they needed a more unpredictable strategy. "Guardian, mimic my movements," he whispered. "We'll trick them." The Guardian responded instantly, mirroring Ilior's gestures. Ilior moved quickly through the station, adjusting panels and using power relays to send the Marauders' energy beams back toward their own ships. The Marauders fired blindly, falling into traps Ilior had improvised in seconds. The tide was turning. One by one, the enemy drones and ships began to falter. They had underestimated humans, underestimated the combination of instinct, creativity, and intuition. But then the Marauder flagship appeared. It was massive, heavily armored, and bristling with weapons. The smaller ships retreated, leaving the flagship to face the Guardian and Ilior directly. "Guardian," Ilior said, "we need to end this quickly. I'll guide you." He instructed the Guardian to climb onto a platform above the docking bay. From there, Ilior could direct energy through the station systems, amplifying the Guardian's power. The flagship fired relentlessly, but Ilior's plan worked. Energy beams redirected by the Guardian struck the flagship's shields, destabilizing them. Then, in a move no one expected, Ilior had the Guardian project a massive energy wave directly at the flagship, cracking its armor. The Marauder crew panicked. Their ship shuddered under the assault, and finally it faltered, engines failing. Ilior and the Guardian held their position until the ship drifted away, powerless. Silence fell. The colony workers stared, breathing heavily in awe. Aliens whispered among themselves. Humans had not only survived, they had won. Shallan approached Ilior, eyes wide. This humans, I have never seen anything like it. Ilior smiled faintly, exhausted but proud. I just worked with what I had, that's all humans do. But he knew it was more than that. The Guardian had chosen him because humans were unpredictable, because humans could think and adapt in ways that other species could not. And that unpredictability had saved the colony. After the battle, Ilior spent hours with the Guardian, repairing minor damage and learning more about its systems. Each interaction deepened their bond. Where humans relied on creativity and improvisation, the Guardian provided power and protection. Together, they were unstoppable. News of the battle spread across the galaxy. Aliens who had dismissed humans began to reconsider. Humans were no longer merely a curiosity, they were a force that could change the balance of power. Ilior never sought fame. He returned to his workshop, covered in scratches, soot, and a thin layer of energy residue from the Guardian. But he felt a new sense of purpose. Humanity had proven something essential. Intelligence, courage, and adaptability could triumph where strength alone could not. The Guardian remained nearby, silent and watchful. It no longer needed instructions for basic tasks. It anticipated Ilior's needs, protecting the colony and learning from him. They were partners, bonded in a way that no alien protocol had ever predicted. Even as the colony celebrated, Ilior sensed that the galaxy was watching. He knew challenges would come again. The Zalari Marauders had retreated, but others would test the limits of humans and their allies. Ilior stepped onto the platform, Guardian beside him, and looked out at the stars. Endless possibilities stretched before him. He was just a human mechanic, but now he carried the weight of a bond that could alter the galaxy. He whispered to the Guardian, "We'll face whatever comes, together." The Guardian's eyes glowed softly, a gesture of agreement. In its presence, Ilior felt a quiet certainty. Humanity had been underestimated for too long. Now the galaxy would see what humans could do, when trusted, when creative, when bold. And somewhere, beyond the edge of known space, others took notice. The human who repaired the Guardian was no longer just a mechanic. He was a symbol of ingenuity, courage, and the unexpected power of a species long dismissed. Kestrel Outpost would never be the same, and the galaxy would never forget the day a human and a Guardian stood together and showed what humanity was truly capable of. After repairing the alien Guardian, the human mechanic was shocked by who it picked.